Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing a GeForce RTX 3060 Ti in The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. I am running it with the latest Nvidia drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Ups GPU Z, and over on the left I am pairing it with the i5-12600K CPU overclocked to 5.1 GHz and 32 GB of DDR5. Let's get into it, shall we? And let's go over the settings first. I am starting at the 1080p resolution using DLAA right here, no upscaling or frame generation at the moment, and I'm utilizing the very high settings preset with medium textures. That's the only change that I made to the preset. Everything else is set to very high, and it seems to do a pretty decent job here, as you can see, especially in this area. Yeah, it's getting 70s, 80s, up to like 90 frames per second at times. That's extremely good performance for the 3060 Ti. And also, I just want to test like ultra performance DLSS right here in this area, because with the RTX 5090 and 9800X 3D system, I was seeing it cap out at like 80 frames per second in this area, but it seems like with Intel CPUs, you don't really have that problem. So a lot of you were telling me you're still getting like 140 FPS with 4090s instead over here in this area. And that's absolutely true if you have an Intel CPU especially, or if you disable resizable bar, as some of you suggested in the comments as well. I haven't tried that, but yeah, if you're seeing really low performance here, try that out. Disabling resizable bar, or maybe side grade to Intel. Yeah, no, don't do that. But let's turn off DLSS again, apply that, and we're back to DLAA, so native resolution, just applying the anti-aliasing from DLSS over here, and let's play the game for a little bit, shall we, my friends? I'm gonna open the map right here. So first of all, we need to find an entrance. Yeah, over there, it seems very adequate. I'm going to start counting the FPS once again, okay, now that we're back at native 1080p resolution. And I'm also going to test it a little bit later in that really dense forest area to see if it drops a little bit further there. But yeah, over here, at least with the 5090 is where it dropped the most because of that little issue with the GPU utilization dropping down by quite a lot. Alright, so we can't really go in that direction, apparently. Yeah. So, how am I going to do this, my friends? I don't know. Oh, we can actually break the windows of the cars. Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, is there loot inside of the cars? I don't think so, though. So this is kind of useless, at least for now. And over here, I think we can actually break these windows. Yeah, oh, there's a brick right there. Very handy brick. Okay, good stuff. And now we can get inside of this area. Let's take a look at this first.
Anyone? No, I'm too old.
Okay. They're too old! Are you serious? These people are too old! No, I guess the papers are too old, probably. Alright, anyways, guys, as you can see inside of these areas, we get a lot higher performance, going up into the 100s, so really, really nice stuff. And let's turn on the flashlight as well, which should make it slightly more intensive. There's a bathroom here. Blood. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Alright, goodbye, Bob. You bastard. That scared the hell out of me, actually. Even though I was expecting it, because I saw the blood and stuff. Ooh, okay. Everything is fine. Alright, Roach, get over here. We gotta move. We gotta move to another area. Alright, Barco's. Oh, okay. Barco's is right here. So we got the key for this door, I think. This is giving me some Silent Hill vibes, actually, in terms of discovering little things throughout the map and opening new doors and stuff like that. It's very interesting. There we go. Good stuff, Ellie.
They were these feral cats I had before I came to Jackson.
Okay. I don't care about your cats. Let's go. Well, actually, I do. Is there Jack in this game? I have been asking this forever, guys, and it would be awesome if Jack was here. Oh, can you imagine? It would make this the perfect game, basically. Absolutely incredible. But no, so far we haven't really seen Jack, so that's a little bit of a shame, guys. Swing to where? Over there, maybe? Alright, getting the hang of this. There's some loot over there as well. And jump. Okay, we're fine. Hey, we're doing, guys. We're doing this. Grab a lot of stuff here. Can't grab more. Like, are you serious? A little bar like that, chocolate bar, can't fit anywhere? I don't see anything worth looking at. Also, by the way, some games would get insane FPS drops just getting near waterfalls like this, like Apex Legends, for example. This one does not do that, so that's good to see. And what am I supposed to explore around here? There's nothing. Oh, wait, there's a big bush. Sometimes big bushes are intensive. Bob's bushes and stuff. And it does actually drop a little bit further there. So, again, I am wondering how the FPS will be in that really dense forest area. Still hasn't dropped from 60 FPS in this area, by the way. It's starting to... Oh, okay, 58, 59. Doesn't really break the immersion or the experience whatsoever, but yeah, it does dip down sometimes in very specific areas, apparently. This part of the game isn't really that optimized, I guess. It's probably the worst performing one. Again, outside of the forest, I'm not sure how it will perform there yet, but yeah, this could be the most intensive area for sure. Also, over there, with the GTX 1050 Ti, this dropped like crazy for some reason. Like, looking over this edge over here. But with the 3060 Ti, there's no problem whatsoever. Actually, I was on top of Roach when that happened, so let me just go on top of Roach again to make sure. Why can't I move when she's not on top of it as well? Yeah, no problems whatsoever with the 3060 Ti. That's good to see. But in terms of VRAM consumption, it's quite good. It doesn't really reach the 7 GB mark even with medium textures. So that's nice. I like to have a little bit of headroom there. You could do high textures sometimes. But yeah, I think I prefer medium here, okay? To make sure that it doesn't run out of VRAM whatsoever and it doesn't start stuttering because of it. Good stuff. Yeah, that's much better. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Infected.
Stay low.
All right. We're good, guys. We're good. I'm gonna take them out with a knife, actually, or try to. Yeah. That guy's just taking a piss or something, so he should be able to do this. Let's go. Stealth kill. Okay. Oh, she got him. Good. All right. Being useful, huh? Thank you. Oh, boy. I thought she was just gonna slow me down or something, but no. Grab. Stealth kill. Come on. What it is. One down. 70s. I mean, 98 FPS average. Pretty damn good, right? And I do like the graphics once again. They could be a little bit better in terms of aliasing, or anti-aliasing actually. DLSS is the best one that I found here in this title, but it's still not amazing, really. It's a little bit too sharp sometimes. Shut up! Shut up! Okay. All good. All good. Alright. And I think now we can actually grab these ones and just kill them. Easily. There we go. There goes Bob's girlfriends. Yes. Nope. Nope. Cut. All right. This was a little bit weirder. Okay. But we got it. We got it. Okay, so we're here on top of this thing. Let's go. It's like a church. Yeah, definitely. All right. Is there going to be a priest, a zombie priest or something? Zombie nuns? That would be actually pretty scary. Ooh, there's a gas tank over there.
Hey, Ellie.
Nice. All right, do we actually have gas over here?
Oh, hell
Yeah.
Hey.
We actually found it, my friends. Good stuff. 69 degrees Celsius on the GPU, by the way. Very nice indeed. I like that the 3060 Ti very often stays at 69 degrees Celsius in my tests. It's very interesting. Anyway, I think it's time for us to just save the game over here, new manual save, and load the previous one in the middle of the forest. And here we have it, guys. It's getting 60s, but it doesn't seem to be dropping from 60 just yet, apparently. So I guess it will up into the 80s sometimes. Not bad. Not bad at all, 3060 Ti. Very high settings, once again, just with medium textures because of the 8 GB of VRAM. It sucks a little bit, you know, if this had the 12 GB of VRAM instead of like the 3060, the normal one. Well, it would have been so much better of a GPU, or like a 3070 with 12 GB of VRAM. It would make these graphics cards super relevant, a lot more relevant than they are these days. Yeah, low 50s sometimes. Not amazing. So in this case, I would probably start utilizing some frame generation, all right? This will make the game look pretty much the same. You know, there might be a slight bit more noise here and there, but it's really hard to notice, especially at 100 FPS with the frame generation. You know, you can't really see a lot of artifacting here. And now, instead of getting those 50 frames per second or 60, we're getting 90 plus all of the time. And yes, input lag is there, it's present, it's noticeable. It's a little bit worse than the native resolution stuff, even with 50 frames per second, you know. But you can get used to it in like 15 seconds. It works pretty well. I think this is how I'd actually play this game to avoid those few drops into the 50s sometimes. If it didn't drop into the 50s whatsoever, maybe I would disable it just for that input lag advantage and a little bit less artifacting, but again, I can't really notice much artifacting at all. This is definitely the way to go, guys, and if you have a controller, you are more than likely not going to notice an input lag increase whatsoever, so it's going to be even better of an experience. So there's that. This is what I'd do here in these cases where it drops, and I mean, just set it and forget it. Enjoy the game with the frame generation enabled at 1080p. I think that's the way to go once again. Just disabling it here to see 60s and 80s. The 1050 Ti, for example, that's a 9-year-old GPU, so obviously not going to do a very good job. Come on, Roach, let's go. In this area, that GPU was getting 26 frames per second at 1080p lowest settings, and it was really intensive for that card. But the 3060 Ti is a heck of an upgrade, as you can see. It gets 60 plus at very high settings with medium textures. Pretty good stuff. So it's only in those really dense forest areas or some other slightly unoptimized areas like we found previously. Yeah, that's where it's going to drop slightly from 60 FPS. But even with those drops, if you don't want frame gen, it will work absolutely fine. So it's a good experience with the 3060 Ti at the 1080p resolution. But what about 1440? Okay, I just restarted the game and changed some settings, so we're at 1440p resolution now, using the high settings preset, including high textures as well, because I think it should be fine. I'm not sure, because VRAM, we just started and it's already reaching 7.8 gigabytes, so it might start stuttering in just a little bit, or swapping things into the RAM. It usually doesn't really matter too much when that happens in this title, because it's usually kind of seamless. You get maybe a slight little stutter and then it swaps and it's fine all the way through again. But yeah, keep in mind with the high textures, things are not looking that great in terms of VRAM consumption here with the 3060 Ti. That's pretty unfortunate. What is going on? Okay. Oh yeah, alright. We should be able to do this. Alright, maybe climb up a little bit. Okay, there we go. We got this. Are you going to do this as well? There we go. Tomb Raider. There it is. Let's go. Can we actually go inside of this over here? Yes. Not a problem in this area, at least. We're still getting 80-something FPS. Yeah, I'm fine. Yep, I'm fine. Okay. Everything's okay. How are you writing, Ellie? My gamer who is controlling me is such a dumbass. He's always trying to kill me or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely starting to swap things into the RAM, actually. That should be on VRAM. We saw a few spikes there that we haven't seen at 1080p resolution. And that's basically what happens when you run out of VRAM in this title. It's not a big stutter like you'd see in other titles, and it doesn't really slow down your game to the point where it becomes unplayable like in other titles as well. So yeah, it's decent. You just need to have a little bit more RAM as well to go with it, because if you only have like 16 gigabytes of RAM and you start offloading some things that should be on VRAM into the RAM, then it starts offloading from RAM into the SSD, and that's when things become pretty crappy. Okay, it will start stuttering a lot and performance will be super low, so I don't recommend that. Alright, also it dropped a little bit into the 50s there to like 56 frames per second, so it's slightly more intensive than very high settings with medium textures at 1080p resolution here on high at 1440, but it's only slightly, so that means that you can still utilize like frame generation on top of this experience to achieve 60 plus or high refresh rate experience most of the time. Oh, but the thing about enabling frame generation at 1440p with high textures is it consumes even more VRAM now. So that could be a problem. We're seeing some weirdness there in the frame time spike, once again due to the VRAM, I think, and when FPS drop into the 70s, it starts becoming really input laggy, so I would not recommend that experience. And I think it only drops into the 70s whenever there's some things swapping from VRAM into RAM. So we should definitely move on to high settings, but with medium textures as well. I'm gonna restart. And we're back here after a restart at 1440p, FSR FG still enabled. The FPS would be pretty much the same at the 1440p resolution native with medium textures or high textures, just a little bit more stable because of those frame times once again. But here with frame generation, it does make quite a bit of a difference, as you can see, since we're not going over 8 gigabytes anymore. The 1% lows are way better. The frame time stability is also way better. It's a little bit more flat, that graph, and it's not dropping into the 70s anymore, or even 80s, honestly. So this makes it a really enjoyable experience now with 1440p and frame generation. Basically, the visual quality stays pretty much the same as native 1440p, just with the added frame generation. And it's so smooth now. We got some headroom, just a little bit of headroom there in terms of the VRAM. And over in this area, the forest area, things are dropping into the 90s, as you can see, but input lag stays pretty good still. It's super bearable with a single player title, linear title like this one. You don't need fast reactions or anything, so yeah, the 3060 Ti is providing a really awesome experience here, guys. High settings are also looking pretty good, even though it's pretty much the same, I guess, as Digital Foundry said, as the PS4 in terms of graphical fidelity at this moment. But I think it's really pretty. It still beats some recent titles based on like much newer engines and stuff like that, which is very impressive. Once again, the LOD is fantastic as well. The level of detail at the distance and so on. You can't really see much pop-in like you usually see in more recent titles. It's looking great. Even the lighting looks awesome inside of this forest area. Really pretty stuff. And also taking a look at the VRAM allocation in the forest area and in this area over here with a lot of grass and so on, it's absolutely fine. It's actually a little bit lower than what we were seeing in the Seattle area, so pretty stable. Once again, I really like this right now, guys. This is the experience I would go for at 1440p. But what about the frame generation turned off completely at this resolution? Over in this area, it gets us 70 frames per second. Not too bad at all. 60s. We already saw that in the other area, it would drop slightly sometimes from 60 FPS into the mid-50s, you know, which is a little bit more intensive, I guess, than this. But, yeah, this is quite nice over here. 70s. Very similar to what we saw at the 1080p very high settings, once again. But let's go back. I'm just seeing if we can get 60 FPS flat all of the time here as well. Because if it does, you could lock the FPS to 60 and have that 60 locked FPS experience, buttery smooth one, like 99% of the time. It will still dip down here and there, but not by much. And it's barely noticeable when that happens, especially if you are immersed into the game and finding out stuff and exploring and actually playing it and not looking at the FPS counter like I'm always doing. Alright? But yeah, as you can see, baseline FPS is around like 70s. So that's why the frame generation still feels really responsive whenever you enable that. It's pretty much baseline of 60 plus. So that's what you want with FG. But what about the 4K resolution, my friends? I hear you ask. Well, maybe two of you are asking that with the 3060 Ti. Well, let's test it out over in the forest area again. This is native 4K resolution, high settings with medium textures, and it's actually really smooth still. VRAM allocation is somehow lower now, but it already swapped some things into the RAM. RAM usage is a lot higher than it was before at 1440p, but that doesn't mean that it will start stuttering once again. The memory management in this game is quite nice. as you can see, guys. A lot of people look at these graphics and they say it looks like crap. I just don't see how. It's really pretty to me, especially at 4K resolution. It brings out all of that detail. Yes, it still has medium textures, but the sharpness and it's just so good. So if you wanted to play on your TV, if you have 4K TV, there is, and the 3060 Ti, it's still going to be possible here. I would just lock the FPS again to avoid those little tiny spikes that we keep seeing on that frame time graph. Now with these FPS as baseline, I would not enable frame generation on top of this because, well, it's just going to be input lag city, basically. So instead, I will try the upscaling now for the first time. Actually, second time. We tested it ultra performance at 1080p resolution. But yeah, let's do quality DLSS right now. And on quality, it looks pretty good. You can tell the difference between this and DLAA. Actually, the sharpening is way too strong. That's the main difference right now. You can lower it down, though. So I'm going to try that. 0. Can we do 0 sharpening? Now it looks a tad bit too soft. I don't know why. This game has that weird sharpening look or over-sharpened look. Now, at the quality DLSS, this is quite a bit smoother, as you can see, getting 50s instead of 30s and 40s. So we gained a good bit of performance there, but it's not going to be super game-changing. So overall, it's fine. It reaches 60 FPS in some areas, as you can see here. But then it goes back down to 50s again. It's not terrible, I would say. Dropping down to 40s at times. All right, still pretty stable, especially for an 8GB GPU, you know. The 8GB GPUs with DLSS quality and 4K usually don't do too well these days. You gotta drop things down to performance. And I guess by dropping things down to performance now, I'm taking a look at the graphics here, still very over-sharpened once again. And it's still dropping from 60 FPS, guys, even with performance DLSS. So at 4K resolution, the upscaler will only give you so many FPS. This doesn't even give us a good baseline to enable frame generation on top of, and since it actually stutters a little bit more and it runs out of VRAM even on performance DLSS here, enabling FG will make it a meh experience, I would say. Still 90s, so not too terrible. Let's go to the other Seattle area, actually. All right, over here it gets us 100 FPS. Yeah, it's actually quite nice. So it's a little bit better than what I was expecting, because usually at 4K resolution, when you enable frame generation, even with DLSS, you don't gain too many FPS, especially if you are VRAM limited already, which we are, or at least we were previously in the other area. But in this game, it's still pretty acceptable aside from when that happens. Yeah. So, again, the VRAM is the main issue right now with frame generation. It's playable. If you lower it down to medium, it will look worse than the PS4 theoretically. It still looks good though, but it will be running a little bit faster as well. And yeah, over here, power utilization starts dropping down quite a lot. That's classic VRAM limitations, you know. Pretty crappy experience actually with frame generation, so at this res, you gotta use like medium settings everywhere. Here we go, guys. Just restarted the game. We're at the 4K resolution with performance DLSS. Yeah, VRAM is already filled up, actually. So, in this area, 4K is a no-no, in my opinion. Medium settings, 4K, DLSS performance. And this is playing the game at 1080p essentially and upscaling it to 4K. Obviously, it still looks a little bit better than 1080p resolution, quite a bit better. It usually looks better with DLSS performance at 4K than 1440p native on a 1440p native monitor. All right, but yeah, since the VRAM is still maxing out here, we should expect a little bit of slowdowns, a little bit of stuttering here and there, which is not ideal whatsoever. So with a 3060 Ti or any other 8GB GPU, you can do a little bit of 4K if you really, really want it, at medium settings especially. And the FPS are good if you use DLSS performance, but it is not an amazing experience and I wouldn't really recommend it. At 1440p and 1080p though, it's going to be a pretty fantastic experience with the 3060 Ti. and I like to see that. Those are the target resolutions for this GPU after all. So, with all of that said, that's been it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video and this look at the 3060 Ti and The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. And I will catch you in the next one very soon. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.